Good morning, all. Welcome to Goa MuleSoft Meter. So today's topic is going to be understanding of MuleSoft and important topics for MuleSoft interview. So first of all, I would like to thank all of you. Take your time and joining this session. I know it's weekend, but still, thank you so much for that. And today's agenda is going to be what, when, where, why, and how MuleSoft. And also we can discuss endpoint platform overview, core components, connectors, data view, and lastly important questions and preparation tips. So before moving ahead, organizer for today's meetup is myself, Vandana Gowda. I'm a MuleSoft developer at Gensa Technologies. I have totally 2.8 years of experience in MuleSoft and IT, and I'm also a MuleSoft mentor and a Goa meetup leader. And I'm passionate about writing blogs. Thank you. And today's speaker for this session is Cibi Shivkumar, and he is working as a MuleSoft developer at Logical Minds IT Solution, and he's also a certified MuleSoft developer and youngest MuleSoft mentor from 2023, and he is also a blogger at Medium. So over to you, Cibi. You can introduce yourself and start the session.
Vandana for your welcome. Hi guys, I'm Cibi from Aussie. Um, Basically, before 2 years, I when I was joining as a MuleSoft developer, even I don't know about what is MuleSoft, how long it's go, how to work. Actually, I will share my thoughts, how I learn, and basic questions, basic knowledge of the MuleSoft, and why MuleSoft arises, what's the purpose, where we have to implement in project, and how to implement, and what are the key areas, key points, and how to crack the MuleSoft interviews in nowadays because before starting for my career before 2 years, it has more opportunities for MuleSoft. As a fresher itself, we have more opportunities. But nowadays, there is no opportunities for freshers. Everyone, every company, TCS, every Wipros, everything asking 2 years of experience or 3 years. Because MuleSoft is well growing technology, API integration tool, and best competitor in the API integration tools in 2024. Why MuleSoft first? Uh, it is a long-waited cargo flight things. For example, if you are going for a Dell Boomis like that, it is a mid-range tools for an integration purpose. May I share my screen, Vandana, or you are continuing to share?
You shared your screen.
Yeah, thanks. One thing I want to less. Yeah. The first thing we have to know about the MuleSoft, it is an API integration tool. What is an API? Application Programming Interface. Everyone knows that the interface is a concept from Java where particular methods or particular things can be called from by the classes. So it is a starting point of API where we can understanding the purpose of APIs. First thing, when you are entering the MuleSoft, you have to understand the basic knowledge of computer networks. Okay, because it explains how client server model works, what are the responses code, what are the responses time status code. So these are the main first basic things you have to started learning for the MuleSoft purpose. Okay, uh, because everything in the MuleSoft working as a server model. Okay, so basically MuleSoft is a server like tool. We are triggering with HTTP request, basically a hypertext transfer protocol where client server model works as it. Okay, whenever a client requests something, the server will give the answers or give the response to the clients. Okay, so understanding of computer networks models will helping understanding the MuleSoft easily. Okay, please ensure that before starting the MuleSoft, you have to read and get some knowledge in status codes, because while working in MuleSoft, you will get a client side error. Someone works will for the server side errors. So understanding these errors, these status codes will explain in the some growth of MuleSoft development. Okay. Second things, the basic tools what we have to include means MuleSoft Anypoint Studio. The first thing where MuleSoft developers will work in that. Second thing, we have API testing tools like Postman. I always prefer Postman because it have some additional key values than anything. There are something else like advanced test client also. We have where we can use for API testing. Okay. Um, we can discuss some important codes now. Okay. First thing, 200, where if the request is success, it will give 200 OK status, 201 created. Whenever we are creating a new data, it will give 201. Okay. The errors are two things, 400 and 500. 400 is always a client side error. When you are making a request, you will do some mistakes, or your client will have some errors or mistakes. Okay. In that 400 bad request is important thing, where while you are requesting to the server, you will make some mistakes in that. For example, the IDs, data types, anything can be have errors. Okay. 400 bad request. 401 unauthorized. Whenever you are facing some security issues like basic auth, OAuth, JWT token, in that cases, if the tokens are not correct, it will give the 401 error, unauthorized error. Okay. The most known errors are 404, 404, not found. That page or that request is not in the server, where we are requesting that to the server. That gives 404 actually. So 408 request time out, 429, too many requests. While you are clicking most of the times, frequently when you are calling the data, the server will have a time. Everyone will understand that there is a particular limit or particular time, particular request limit for the server. So if you are crossing that limit, we will get 429 too many requests. So next thing, 500 status codes are basically for server side errors. 502 is bad gateway. Between the servers and client, there is a bad gateway error. And 504 is gateway time out. It took some more time to give the answers for the client. It will give the 504 errors. So next thing, the important things we have to know that HTTP methods. What is the purpose of get method, put, post, delete? Okay. So please make sure these topics while before entering the rules of developer portion. Okay. The second most important thing is API lit connectivity. Okay. API lit connectivity tells or brief you something about what is the purpose of API, what are the different types of APIs, uh, what are three categories inside an API. Basically, we all know there is sorry, one second. Uh, three types of APIs, right? Um, System APIs, process APIs, and experience APIs. What is system APIs? Whenever you are developing a MuleSoft application, the system API will connect to directly to the backend systems like Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, AWS, Google, or SQL. These kind of APIs are called system APIs. The second layer is called the process API, where the orchestration functions and connecting two system APIs or two or more system APIs will work in the process APIs. Okay. The experience APIs is nothing but the direct connections of the UI. It will directly connect to the UI or something is called um, experience API. Okay. These are the key areas before you starting the MuleSoft developer portion. After that, we have to be basic knowledge of these things. Anypoint platform, inside Anypoint platform, there are many topics with excluding this, like IDP and Anypoint code builder. But these are the six. These six is the main things where you have to understand and As a MuleSoft developer, at least these six things you have to know these points. Okay. First thing, design center. Um, everyone knows that RAML is the main thing in our MuleSoft. 80 percentage of Mule applications are built by the RAML. Okay. RESTful API modeling language. It's nothing but an API modeling language. It is an easily understandable language. Okay. Uh, what is design center? A design center is just nothing but development environment that includes API designer. While opening the Anypoint platform, the first thing we can see that a design center where we can use the RAML to design the APIs. Without RAML, we can also develop the Mule application. The purpose of RAML is that defining the data and its types. What are the data is to be transferred to the API and replied to the API, and what are the data can be passed to the API, and it can pass to the API policies or gateways. So defining the data and types is the main goal and the main goal of the RAML. Also, we can include that resources. Resources is nothing but you can use slash and return your resources. While we are searching something in Chrome, it's like an www.google.com history in the like API led connectivity. These are the resources in the service. So defining the data and data types through the resources in RAML is the main purpose of the RAML. Okay. And something we have to speak that we can use three types of API specifications: YAML, OS, async API. Okay, so these things we have to start from the MuleSoft document. Don't use any something else, any other documents to read the MuleSoft. As a MuleSoft developer, if you need anything, you have to start from the MuleSoft document. Okay. Next, we have to know we should understand the purpose of exchange. After designing the RAML in Design Center, we have to publish to some place. It's called exchange. It's nothing but it is a collections of reusable assets, like a library. We can publish to the exchange. We can take and use in something else. Okay. Even though you are publishing to the exchange, some MuleSoft provided assets also placed in that exchange. We can also use those things uh, for our projects, or we can do some POCs with the help of that assets, that APIs in the exchange. Okay. Uh, After publishing in the exchange, something must be connected to the exchange and API manager, where you have to give the request from the API manager, and in exchange we have to give request access to that API. Okay. Don't confuse about API manager and runtime manager. Both are manager managing something, but API manager is nothing but it's just an API. But runtime manager where we deploy the MuleSoft application. Okay. See, API manager is nothing but managing APIs, securing APIs through policies. SLA API manager is tightly coupled with Studio. After creating your MuleSoft RAML things, you have to deploy, you have to include in the Studio. Okay. In that time, you have to take from the design center or exchange or through local systems that API. Okay. In that time, managing APIs is through only to the API manager, securing through policies. Policies means nothing but it is a gateway between the client and server. What are the requests and how the request to be passed to the server? Because a server can crash, a server doesn't work sometimes. So in that time, policies will help in between the clients and servers. Okay. Next, API governance. And one thing I forgot to say, while you are defining in the RAML, there are some rule sets, right? We also know that there is a rule set like best practices. We all know that we all apply that for a best practices. While creating the RAML, it is a good thing to follow your best practices. How to define the RAML? What are the key points that can be included? What are the minimum security issues? How to define a data type and how to give a version, methods, protocols, everything. The best practices will let you know. how to define those things. If you done wrongly, it shows the error and it helps to uh, clear the error. Okay. Okay. API governance is nothing but securing those API through the rule sets and API policies. It will shows the percentage of API security. How many policies are cleared, how many policies should be cleared, and what are the errors in basic API policies and security schemes. API governance will be a best part to secure an API. Okay. The main advantages of API governance will improve your organization's API quality. The quality of API will get increased by following the API governance 100%. Okay. So these are the main things about API manager and the API governance. There is a runtime manager. The main thing where you will deploy the Mule applications, okay, to the cloud hub through runtime manager. Okay, see, with runtime manager, you can deploy, manage, and monitor your Mule applications in sandbox, staging, or production environment. One central locations where the apps are deployed in the cloud or on premises. On premises is nothing but we can handle the server. The servers are our own thing. We can deploy our applications to the servers. That thing is called on premises. Cloud is nothing but through internet the servers will handled by someone else. So in that server we can buy the servers. We can deploy to the servers. Mainly the MuleSoft is using AWS servers. Even the cloud is the name. The cloud as a MuleSoft is using is AWS. Okay. You see after sometimes you will came to know the difference between cloud hub and cloud 2.0. What are the key areas while AWS is deploying in that. Okay. Okay. Next thing, the last thing is cloud hub. It's nothing but it is an integration platform as a service. Okay, a complete integration platform where you can design your raml, you can share to the exchange, you can deploy to the cloud hub. So the complete integration platform is a service is called cloud hub. It's a best one of the best thing in MuleSoft is this iPaaS. Using this iPaaS, MuleSoft is also always a number one integration tool in between its competitors. Okay. See, Cloud Hub is an integration platform as a service where you can deploy sophisticated cross-cloud integration applications in the cloud, create new APIs on top of existing data sources, integrated on-premises applications with cloud services, and much more. See, okay. These are the main any point platform things to be covered before your interview or before starting the MuleSoft career as a developer. Okay. Okay. The main things after this, where you will develop the Mule applications in the studio with the help of core components, is the main area to focus yourself. Okay. Because these are the collections of functionalities for the MuleSoft developing. Okay. Without this, you cannot complete the entire development process. See, core components are the main building blocks of the Mule applications. Okay. Core components enhances the functionalities of Mule runtime. What this mean? You can increase the functionalities. Like you can uh, components like batch for each, parallel for each. You can do some programming logics using these components. Okay. See, the next point is same. They provide logic for processing the Mule event. A Mule event is nothing but after the HTTP request, the Mule message turned to the Mule event. Okay. This is the point. The important core components are batch, flow, choice, on error, scatter, gather, and try scope. Actually, the core components are divided into 7 subcategories. Components, batch, endpoint error handling, flow control, scopes, transformers. Okay, we can go through that. Okay, see, after if you are focused the core components, you have to see some connectors. You have to do some POCs or some small talks to know these connectors. At least as a 2 years or 3 years experience, you have to get some knowledge in these 6. Don't shrink this only 6. You have to do some POCs in other connectors also. Okay. Uh, these are the main things. Without Salesforce, yeah, they won't make you as a MuleSoft developer. So the first thing, because MuleSoft is a Salesforce tools, okay, into 2012 something, Salesforce by the MuleSoft, okay. So Salesforce is the main thing where you have to connect with MuleSoft. Before you can do some POCs between Salesforce and MySQL, where you can transfer the data between Salesforce and MySQL. Even MySQL can be connected to the AWS. You can use the AWS database as an SQL. So you can now you can connect as you can transfer the data between Salesforce and AWS. Okay. If you are working these connectors, at least you have to do thread operations, create, read, update, delete. Okay, then you can understand the basic needed things for these connectors, basic functionalities, how to create, how to read, how to update. These things can be learned by doing some POCs or tasks. Okay, SFTP is nothing but a secured file transfer protocol. Okay, while doing in my POC, I struggled for 2 days in SFTP because SFTP server is something else. We don't know. We didn't understand those topics. So you have to create your own laptop server as an SFTP server. For these points, you have to make some settings inside your laptop, some servers build things, some things in your run times. Okay, so after doing that, you can use your local server as an SFTP for SFTP connection. Okay, secure file transfer. IMAP is nothing but it's using for transferring the mails from one system to another system. Okay, data view. One of the most important programming and transformation language for the MuleSoft is DWL, Data View Language. It is designed by MuleSoft itself to transform the data. For example, you are getting JSON things, but you have to transfer to XML to the server or to the one of the clients. So in this area, DWL is the only thing to transform the data and its types. Okay, it's nothing but transformation language developed by MuleSoft for accessing and transforming data that travels through MuleSoft application. Okay, inside while you are creating MuleSoft applications, you can use transform message, the core component transform message to do these transformations and its types. For JSON to XML, XML to JSON, JSON to CSV, XML to CSV. Okay. Okay. Uh, Before entering to the MuleSoft important questions, uh, we can go through the core components. Okay. What are the important core components? What are the first? What are the core components? What are the types of core components? How it is using? Okay. The core components is nothing but the building blocks of MuleSoft application, right? Okay. In this, we have async, batch processing, cache, choice router, custom business event, dynamic evaluate, first successful router. Uh, these things are more not used mostly, but somewhat we have to understand those core components, everything. Okay, first successful flow, subflow, flow reference. Flow reference is nothing but if you have to refer the flow, you refer the subflow, you have to use the flow reference component, right? Idempotent message. Idempotent message validator. Idempotent, where I came to know that idempotent, while I'm as a worked as a Java intern, there is a something called idempotential, where the same result, while you are triggering to the server, the same result is coming to the your Chrome screen, while the function should not change the answers. This thing is the idempotent message validator. Actually, in MuleSoft, whether the results are changing or not, whether the requests are changing or not. These can be identified or validated by idempotent message validator in MuleSoft. Okay. And next thing, logger. We all know that logger component is always used in MuleSoft development. We can give the correlation ID. Is there any error or debugging something else? We can use in a logger component. On error components. On error components are nothing but to debug the errors using try scope, using on error continue, on error propagate. On error continue is nothing but even though you are getting error, the flow must be continued. This is called on error continue. Okay. On error propagate means nothing but if you get an error, the flow must be stopped and it backs to the starting stage. It is called on. Uh, 1 second. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay. Uh, yeah, we finished the on error components. Parallel for each is nothing but if you are having data of thousands, we have to go for batch process. But if you are having hundreds of data, you can have parallel for each. It's nothing but it splits the messages or collections into a part that simultaneously processed in separate routes. For each is nothing but it iterates through one message. For example, if you are giving hundreds of message, for each iterates one by one. So if we have any one error, it will stop the functions. Okay, it stops the workings. But if we are using parallel for each, even though we are getting error, the working will not stop. Will not get stopped. Okay, simultaneous process through separate routes will be worked inside the parallel for each. A batch is also same thing. Okay. Raise error components. Whenever we have to create our own things in errors, in that time we have to use raise error components. Okay. Round robin. Yeah. In this last time, in last areas, I will connect. I will clearly explain what is round robin, where we are using, because most of the servers in the world. See, even though even Chrome, Google is also a server. In these things also, round robin is one of the key areas where you have to understand what is round robin, why it is a famous things in those areas. In MuleSoft, how round robin can be used. So we will cover that. Okay. Next thing, we all know that scheduler. Um, if you are not using HTTP request to trigger the MuleSoft application, you can schedule the time when to trigger the MuleSoft application. For example, in use cases like auto update. See, we are getting any update messages or daily updation. In that time, we can use scheduler, right? How we can give the time every morning 10 a.m. Just collect the data and deploy to the SQL. Collect the data from Salesforce and put to the SQL. Every day 10 a.m. This can be scheduled to the scheduler component inside the MuleSoft application. Okay. Second thing, scatter gather. One of the most used and famous router inside the Mule applications, because in this itself it has an definition, scatter gather. If you have some knowledge in physics, you can know the scattering. It splits the light. So here also scatter gather is nothing but splits the payload or collections, and it process inside the inside inside the scatter gather through parallel processing routes. Different routes, different threads will run inside the scatter gather. After scatter, at last it will gather them all mule events and give us an one output. This is nothing but scatter gather router. Okay. We always know that a set payload, set variable. Set payload is nothing but we can we can give the payload inside the set payload. We can set a variable inside a set variable component. Okay. Last thing, transformation message. uh, Without transformation message, we don't work in MuleSoft application, right? Transformation is nothing but uh, the main outputs comes to the transformation or main transformations JSON to XML, XML to JSON can be get through transformation message. And at last, triscope. Triscope is nothing but main usage of triscope where we use will while you have to debug the errors through on error continue or on error propagate. We will define or we will design as a triscope. We will give inside the triscope on error continue or on error propagate to debug those errors. Okay. Last thing, until success. It is nothing a scope where until success it will runs and it will debug those things inside the until successful router. Okay, these are the main areas where we have to keen knowledge. We have to keep the best knowledge, best understanding of MuleSoft developer. Apart from this, at least we have to know. We come to know that the basic difference between Cloud Up, Cloud 2.0, VPCs, VPN, and basic competitors like MuleSoft, Dell Boomi versus IBM API connector and Oracle API connector. What is the even though Salesforce have its integration part, why MuleSoft came? So we have to learn these things, and we at last we have to for the interview purpose we at least we have to know two different types of patterns like enterprise integration patterns, data integration patterns. Okay, we will cover in this time. Okay, so now we came to MuleSoft important and interview questions. Uh, in my aspect, I at least attended 10 to 20 interviews before 1 year. Okay. Yeah, I few minutes we can speak how I cleared the interviews and what are the some critical areas where I failed. What are the technical areas I failed? Where the DWL? While entering to the MuleSoft, I was supposed to work as a MuleSoft support role only for first 3 to 6 months. In that time, I don't know. I didn't get even a single knowledge in MuleSoft how it works. Simply, I came, simply I designed the ramble, simply I scaffold to the studio. I worked whatever they said, just drag and drop the component, just to do the connections between Salesforce SQL or anything, AWS or Google BigQuery, something else. Okay. After that, I'm getting to client interview. I failed 3 times consecutively. I cannot even clear the first round. Okay, where I lagged understanding these documents. I didn't read those documents because uh, everything we do practically. But we have to concentrate. What are the key points? What are the values inside your particular components? For example, max concurrency is the main thing. I always implement that. But what is that? What are the components? Have the options of max concurrency? I don't know. So for first 3 to 7, 8 interviews, I failed technically itself. I even cannot attend for the first round or second round. After that, I for next 3 to 6 months, I sit simply and I just focus the documents with the practical knowledge. Every component I done some POs. Every component I worked with practically and get some knowledge about those components. I just thought that if you are working core components we can clear the interview. After that I attended interviews after 6 months. I just lagged in the DWL. I don't know whether they will ask DWL those questions, these questions or not. So but I cleared technical interviews in core components and mules of development, these any point platforms, these areas I cleared the interview technically. But while entering to the second round or third round, they just ask some DWL questions also. For first round, it's simple DWL questions, how to transform, what is data, what is DWL and its version, those things I cleared. But while entering to the second technical round, while asking DWL, I just get lagged. I don't know what is DWL, how it works, what are the transformation, what are the functions, what are the core areas, the main things of DWL, I didn't work that. So next we have to the main important, because this is the only transformation language used in MuleSoft. So apart without this DWL, there will be no interview questions. Okay, so at least in my opinion, at least spend half an hour to 1 hour in DWL practically. Okay, you just go where you can do DWL means playground. Mules of There is a mules of playground where you can uh, develop and test that. Okay, DWL, data view transformation language. So we can enter to the mules of important and interview questions. So this one, basic knowledge in computer networks. What we covered first is the basic understanding. At least we have to know the HTTP methods, status codes, and its message. Because in the first 6 months, I got for example, I'm saying if I get some 500 error, I will go and work in 400 errors. I will see that any errors in my side, because 500 is server side, 400 is client side error. So make these difference. You can understand while working with the 200, 400, 500 status practically. You will get some knowledge in some computer networks through MuleSoft. Okay. Postman is one of the most useful tool for me, where I get most language. Even though you are getting some knowledge in computer networks through Postman, Postman will also get depth understanding of data transformation. What are the data through this resource we are getting as an output? What are the things we have to test through Postman? For example, what JWT, basic authentication, client ID, client credentials. So these can be understand while working in MuleSoft and with the Postman. Okay. So second thing we already spoke, that API connectivity. Most important basic key area for the MuleSoft. With the API connectivity only, MuleSoft developer will works. Okay. Second thing, RAML. See, RAML is nothing but a RESTful API modeling language. We all know that. But the basic things for interview purpose, at least these four questions you have to know. Okay, at least within these four questions they at least ask one or two questions. Fragments, what is fragments, what is library, what security schemas will do, what are the rule sets. Yeah, see, fragments is nothing that it is also like an API specifications, but you will not completely design the API. Just any common things, common resources you have to use in your project repeatedly or multiple times you have to use. Those can be designed in API fragments and publish it to the exchange. It is a common thing. If one fragment is exchanged, publish it to the exchange, you can use by multiple APIs while creating the RAML. Okay. Library inside an API specification is nothing. You can give every types. For example, traits, resource type, um, anything can be given to the libraries. Example, annotation type, security teams, anything you can give inside the library. You can use those in API specifications, right? Security schemas is nothing but it is a way to define your securities, like UI, OAuth, digest auth, or custom security things, or JWT token. Anything you have to define in MuleSoft developer, as a MuleSoft developer in Studio, you have to define those things before in RAML. Without RAML, the MuleSoft Studio development will not be completed clearly. Okay, and these core components and development, the main things, core components is we all know that a functionality is building blocks of program. Okay, batch, yeah. See, simply understand that where we work with batch first. Whenever we are using to pass the thousands of data, multiple data, batch is the only solution inside the MuleSoft Studio to pass the data between the client and service. Okay. Simply, it is used to handle large data sets in asynchronous process. Okay. It doesn't iterate like for each one by one. It is also it also uses separate routes to run. Okay. The main three components of batches, we all know that batch process, components of batch processes: batch job, batch step, and batch aggregator. Okay, batch job is the first component inside the batch where it splits the data and stores it in the persistent queue. Okay, what is the using persistent queue inside here? Because persistent, while using persistent queue, even though systems are off or are waiting for some times, it will continue while using persistent queue. Okay. Batch job splits the data and stores in the persistent queue. It's load and dispatch the process. Okay. And complete the phrase. Complete the processes. Okay. Next, batch step. Batch step is the process where individual records from the persistent queue. Batch job splits the data and stores in the persistent queue. Next, batch step will process the each individual records in the persistent queue. Any transformations or any things can be done inside the batch step. Okay, example, transformations, validations, or connections with external systems for each records can be done inside the batch step. Okay. For example, to filter some things also can be done inside the batch step. Um, okay. In batch step, there are two main things. One, accept expression. One, accept policy. Okay. These things must be covered. Okay. Next thing, batch aggregator. Batch aggregator is nothing but it is an multiple record sender within an array. Okay. Batch step and batch job splits the data, but batch aggregator is useful to send multiple records within the singleton. Okay. Most cases, bulk insert and bulk operations are done using batch aggregator. Okay. How we can handle the error? However, data view functions are there to handle the errors inside the batch. We have to give the configurations, accept policy. In batch step, there is an option called accept policy. We have to change that as only failures. Okay, then only it can handle the error inside the batch job. So next thing, choice router. Choice router is nothing but an switch cases. In some programs like Java, Python, we are using switch cases. Multiple conditions, based on the condition, it will work single conditions. If single condition gets true, it goes inside. Otherwise, the default thing will work. Okay, one second, guys. Thanks. Mm, see, choice router is nothing but based on the data with expression or condition. Choice router will dynamically route the message to the flow. Okay. If if no conditions are true, it will goes to the default. Okay. Scatter choice router is a simple one. Scatter gather. While entering to the scatter gather component is routing event. Routing event processor that processes mule event through different paralleling process. So before we spoke, right? It has a separate route, threads to work inside the scatter gather. It splits the payload and gathers as a single output at last. Okay. Each of these routes uses separate thread to execute event processor. A resulting mule event can be either the same mule event. The output can be modified or without modified. Okay. Don't confuse it inside that. Okay. See, scatter gather components executes each route in parallel. Okay. In that cases, but not sequentially. uh, Try to understand that it works in parallel but not sequentially. Parallel execute because one route can take some time, 2 seconds, but another route can get 5 times. So that cases we have to see whether it's working sequentially or not. Okay, it works parallelly but not sequentially. Okay. Um, Next things, this is a main topic where they will ask in the interview. Difference between cache, object store, cookies. Okay. Um, we will always confuse the difference between cache and cookies. If we ask what is cache, it stores the data. Okay. What is cookies? It also stores some data. So there is a difference between these three. Cache is nothing but the server itself uses the cache. See, cookies is nothing but the server will give to the client. Okay, I will explain clearly. First, we try to cover the cache. And cache is nothing but used to store the data, frequently called data for a particular time. If you are calling it data, it can be uh, stored for 2 3 minutes. Okay, that can be reusable. The main advantage is reusable because you don't want to trigger the Salesforce or SQL to take the data. If you are using cache for particular time, it can the data can be uh, derived from that cache itself. Okay. Um, but whenever you are working with SQL data, if you want to filter those things in that time, you cannot you catch it. Okay, understand that because the filtration for first time you are giving, you have to retrieve the first data. In second time you have to retrieve the second data, but it cannot be reusable or useful in that type catch. Okay, in that time what we can do, we can retrieve the entire data using cache and store inside the cache. After cache, you can use transformation message with filter options to filter the particular data from the cache. So here you can reuse the data, save the time. Using filter, you can filter the needed data. Okay, try to understand that. See, mainly what are the configurations in cache, cache size, expiration time, maximum allowed entries, how much cache can store, how times it must be stored, and what is the size of cache. These are the configuration areas. Okay. Second thing, object store. The main difference, object store is also used to store the data. The main difference is cache is a single data type, but object store we have to give key value pairs. We have to store the data as a key value pair. And one thing, the main difference is if you are using cache in one mule application, it cannot be used in some other mule application. Okay. Uh, Cache cannot be shared between X and Y mule applications, but object store, because object store having some advantages, object store connectors, it can be shared between two mule applications. If you are saving the data through object store, okay, it used key value pairs. Using key, you can retrieve the value from some some other mule applications. Okay. See, even I don't know how many members you used cookies or where it shows means you can see the cookies option in request component. Okay. Okay, because see here itself we can see the difference. Cookies is a while developing we can use cookies, but whenever the request are passing, we have to send the data as cookies to the client. Okay, client also whatever they are accessing. Okay, this is the main difference between catchy object store and cookies. Cookies is nothing but request to the client. Whenever a request is going to trigger the client or server using request component, you can send some data to the servers or client. Okay. One thing, um, using Postman, you can access the cookies. Okay. Attributes dot header. You can using attributes dot header. You can see the cookies what triggered from the request component. Okay. Guys, try to do some POC task using these areas. Then only you then only you can understand these areas how it works. Okay. Every servers, every clients have cookies, caches, and object store. The main use of cookies session management. See, you cannot repeatedly search something. In that time, caches and cookies will help to save the time to do not hurt the server, do not request the server. Okay, authentication, authorization are stored using cache or cookies. Load balancing, main areas of load balancing is done using cookies. Uh, uh, preferences. Whenever we are using Chrome, it adds something like accept cookies. So your preferences and your likely data can be shared to the request, shared to the service. What are the preferences you are preferred? It also optimizes the performance. Okay, for the service. The main advantages. Next thing, we can see difference between parallel for each and batch process. We already saw that parallel for each separate threads, separate routes. Batch is also a separate threads. For each is nothing but it iterates one by one, splits the payload into elements and iterates one by one. Okay. After for each payload remains the same as before. See, whatever the payload going inside the for each, the same data will be the output after the for each. Try to understand this. This for each is standing between whatever the data entering to the for each inside. That will the same input will come as the output. Oh, okay. The payload only changed inside the for each. If you need the payload, whatever inside changed, you have to set a variable inside the for each to save the payload and use the variable outside the for each to take the payload. Okay, don't confuse that. Set a variable inside the for each component to take the whatever payload changed inside the for each. Okay, to access the payload outside the for each. Okay. See, the major difference between these things is error handling. Even one data is having error, any one process having error, it will stop the processes. Okay, but parallel for each and batch process doesn't stops the entire process. Okay, parallel for each is nothing but splits a collection and simultaneously process in separate routes, multiple routes, multiple threads. Okay, after finishing the process, the payload is arranged. See, here the payload can be changed, but the order of payload is same as input. Okay, for the output. Okay, each element is processed in parallel using separate threads. Okay, so the order will not be changed. Okay. See, the main purpose is iterates by one for each. It will take some batch time. But for parallel for each and batch process, the main advantage is to reduce the processing time, reduce the processing mule events, the main advantage. Okay, it reduces processing time and improves overall efficiency and scalability of your mule applications. As we know the difference error handling between these three, if any errors in parallel, it won't stop the entire process. After the process is completed, the error handler will handle the error. There are only two error options, one I can know, mule composite routing. Using that, the error will be thrown. Okay. See, the main next question, the difference between Cloud Up and Cloud Up 2.0. In recent interviews, in all interviews I attended these questions. Okay. Um, See, as we know, Cloud Up is using AWS server to deploy the MuleSoft applications. Okay. So, what is the difference between Cloud Up AWS and Cloud 2.0 AWS? See, the main difference is Cloud Up is using EC2 instance. The server types are getting different. So only Cloud 2.0 is better than Cloud Up applications. Cloud Up 2.0, Cloud Up is using EC2 instance. Cloud Up 2.0 is using EKS. As may someone can know that what is Kubernetes. So EKS is nothing but Elastic Kubernetes Service. For Cloud 2.0, we are deploying to the Kubernetes. So in this time we should know the difference between VPN and VPCs. Okay, it will help to understand the difference between Cloud Hub and Cloud 2.0 easily. So the next difference is Cloud Hub has maximum vCores, that is 16. It has 16 vCores with the memory of 32 GB memory, but Cloud 2.0 has maximum of 4 cores but 15 GB memory. Even the main difference is Cloud 2.0 is faster than Cloud Hub. So the maximum memory of Cloud 2.0 is lesser than the Cloud Hub memories. Okay, don't confuse with that. This is maximum memory. The minimum memory of Cloud Hub is 0.1 vCores with 512 MB. Cloud 2.0's minimum memory is 0.1 vCores with 1.2 GB. See here, the minimum itself we can understand the difference between Cloud Hub and Cloud Hub. For a Cloud Hub application, the minimum requirement is 512. They allocate 512 MB memory, but for Cloud 2.0 they are allocating 1.2 GB memory. Here itself, the Cloud 2.0 wins. Okay, the speed difference, performance, everything. See, the GUI differences. What are the things we using? What are the configurations differences? Cloud Hub has the instance as worker and worker size, but Cloud 2.0 they are naming as replicas and replica size. Both are same and both will do the same things. Okay, but the wordings are different. Okay, little bit difference. See, and the Cloud Hub we have options persistent queue. Whenever the server stops or whenever the deployment fails, it will continue with the help of persistent queue in Cloud Hub. But Cloud 2.0 doesn't have persistent queue options. Instead of that, what Cloud 2.0 has the advantage is here MQ. MQ is nothing but a messaging queue services between applications or inside applications. Every applications like SAP, Salesforce, MuleSoft, Oracle, IBM will have a messaging queue services. Using that, we can pass the messages between the applications. Okay. See, the next thing, the deployment difference is uh, for cloud app application, we have to configure some securities like TLS certifications, those areas. But even though if you are applying this, the cloud app's result is HTTP. You can see the result as http.cloudapp.io and your Mule application name. But default name, Cloud 2.0 has an advantages of HTTPS. In this security will give the advantages for using Cloud Up 2.0 applications. Okay, and some differences between Cloud 2.0 has ingress options and two deployment models, namely rolling update and recreate. We can update those applications or recreate the applications using Cloud 2.0. Okay, Cloud Up uses VPCs. Okay, Cloud Up is using VPCs while Cloud 2.0 uses private spaces. Both are same things, but the keywords are different. VPCs and private spaces. Okay, what is the purpose of private spaces? Provide isolations and control while deploying applications. Okay, see, the next big topic is API policies. See, and the API policy is nothing but the API gateways between client and servers. Whether it will allocate whether this data can be these applications can trigger the server or not. These things will be controlled by API policies. Okay. Um, see, at least we have to give some learnings in rate limiting, HTTP caching, JWT validation, OAuth policies, client ID enforcements, IP allow list, IP block list. See, there are many policies, nearly 18 to 20. Okay, at least the basic we have to have basic knowledge of these APIs. See, rate limiting, we can see the difference between rate limiting, spike control, SLATs. Okay, rate limiting policy is nothing but it limits the number of requests to the service. Only 100 of requests can be triggered at the same time to a server. See, we are limiting the server's triggering limit. This can be used by rate limiting policy. For example, you can set only hundreds of requests can be triggered to the servers. If one not one a request is triggered, it will replace as too many requests. So we have to wait for some time, and next we have to trigger. Okay, 429 too many requests. Okay, and next rate limiting SLA based. SLA is nothing but service level agreement. Only the request with a particular ID passwords can be do the contract between API provider and API consumer. Okay, it's nothing but using one ID password. The SLA tier works. The rate limiting can be works as the same. The same request the 100 request will have the ID password. So even though it has an SLA agreement, the 101 request will be given as 429 too many requests. The server will reply that. See, if you are building a best mule applications, you have to focus on spike control policy because rate limiting have some disadvantages like 429, but spike control is one of the main rate limiting policy because it has an queue options. We can set the limit to 100. Also, we can add the queue limit as 50 to 100. If 100 request is triggered, it will allow the 100 request. After that, the 50 request is queued for a particular seconds or particular time. Then the 100 records are processed. Then the 50 request will be processed. But so that it will not reply 429 request. It will just load sometime. It will give the reply to the request. Okay. See, spike control policies, it has one algorithm. It follows one algorithm, sliding window algorithm, where it reduces the spikes in traffic and protects the gateway instance. We can ask that after 150 request, we have 151th request, it will give the same error 429. Okay. See, policy is nothing but it will enforce some regulations. What is the main things to cover? It will manage security, control traffic, and improve adaptability, increase the lifetime of the service. Okay, the crashing of service can be saved using API policies. Okay, see the next things. This is one of the question to me. What are the main steps to follow the best practices for your Mule application? See, the main thing we all know the property files. We have to separate. We have to do some separate files um, for using YAML. We always name that a config prop YAML file. Inside that we have the values are not given hard code. Using dynamic values, we will pass the data adapt values to the components. Okay. Second thing, using secure properties. We know that using secure properties, we can secure the passwords inside the Mule applications, right? Second thing, common error handler. The three types of error handling are low level error handling, project level error handling, and common error handling. See, common error handling is nothing but the most of the error types and error components are built in one project and can be called through its dependencies and plugins. Using that POM file name, we can share those common error handlers between any projects or any Mule applications. Okay. See, the next best practices includes applying policies and rule sets. Rule sets is given inside RAML. Applying policies are for APIs after creating the APIs inside the API manager. Okay. And next thing, the best practices includes using flows and subflows. Even that we are defining the resources through RAML. After we are scaffolding in the studio, the each single resources must be designed with separate flows or separate subflows. Okay, this is the best practices. It will not crash the Mule application, the main focus. Okay. Second thing, you have to understand what are the functionalities or logics used for that project. Based on that, you have to give the core components. Simply, you don't want to drag every components, or you don't use every components or um, yeah, related components we have to give inside the Mule applications. Okay. See, in my opinion, the best practices always includes catchy component. Okay, the main thing, catchy component. While applying policies, HTTP caching. See, the entire HTTP request data can be cached using HTTP caching API policy and spike control policy. See, the second thing, API manager, where we spoke about that client ID enforcement, is nothing but using policies. We have to give client ID and client secret to access that Mule applications. Okay, spike control is nothing but the request can be queued for particular time. HTTP caching is nothing but the entire HTTP request is cached using HTTP caching. OAuth, basic auth, JWT tokens are security API policies. Using OAuth only, we can request to the server. Using only basic auth, we can request to the server using JWT token. Okay. Apart from this, there are many API policies like IP allow list, IP block list. Okay. See, the main DWL questions what I get. Okay. Flat and flat map object, filter object, distinct by, split by, order by, plug, reduce, lookup, and property name. Property name is nothing but while using components, we in some areas we use that mule p functions. Okay, that's the p property name. Lookup is nothing but lookup is the only function where you can used for the flow purposes. You can call the flow using the call name through lookup function. Okay. Flatten is nothing but the collections of arrays or multiple arrays can be flattened into a single array. This is called flatten. Flat map is nothing but iterates over each item in an array and flattens the result. Okay. Map is nothing but map iterates over an array and the results also an map. Results also an array. Map object is iterates over an object and its result output is also an object. Filter is nothing but iterates over an array and gives the output that matches the condition. Filter inside itself using the condition we can filter the required objects or arrays. Okay. Filter object is nothing but using key value pairs we can apply the conditions or expression to match the only particular objects. Filter the outputs. Okay. uh, Distinct by iterates over the input and returns the unique elements. If we have to um, if we have to stop the repetition or multiple unique elements, we have to retrieve only the unique elements. We have to use distinct by. Okay, split by it's nothing but splits a string into single array based on the value. So based on the value, it splits the array. Okay, group by is nothing but using with based on specified criteria or expression, it returns an object. Okay, order by reorders the element of an input using criteria that acts on selected elements of the input. Order by is nothing but it reorders the elements of an output. Okay, plug the main function used in the DWL. Mapping an object into an array, plug iterates over an object and returns an array of keys. Plug will iterate over an object and returns an array of keys and values. Okay. Hmm. See, the next best practices or important questions includes performance tuning. Many of you may or may not read this or learn these topics, but it is the most important topics in MuleSoft applications or MuleSoft development. Performance tuning is the compulsory followed one thing to make the Mule applications better performance. Okay, in this we cover four topics. There are some 7 or 8 topics, but these four are main things to be covered. Performance tuning includes repeatable, non-repeatable streaming, merge concurrency, batch processing, caching. Okay. Batch processing we already saw 2 3 times. So batch processing is nothing but a multiple threads, multiple iterates to give a good performance for the thousands of data in a single time. Cache is nothing but to store call the frequently called data in a particular time. Okay, we can see repeatable streaming and non-repeatable strategy. See, non-repeatable strategy having some advantages like memory efficiency, performance, simplified data handling, reduce the risk of out of memory error. But it reads the payload only once. So it is called non-repeatable strategy. See, in most cases, we doesn't use non-repeatable strategies. Okay, this is one of the failure things. So to overcome this, we always use repeatable strategies. Useful in scenarios where the same data needs to be processed or accessed by multiple components within the flow. In here, the payload can be read more than once. A repeatable strategy also have 2 subcategories like file storing streaming, in-memory storing. How the payload can be read more than once? So that it uses file store or in-memory streaming. To handle large data, we have to give file store repeatable stream. It uses the temporary file on disk. Okay. In-memory repeatable stream to handle data stream by storing them in memory. It is stored in temporary file disk. It's stored in memory. The main difference is these two things. See, the next big area we have to cover is max concurrency. Okay, only 5 components have max concurrency option. Okay, flow, scatter gather, async scope, batch job, parallel for each. Okay, even in 4 components we can give any value as a max concurrency, but batch job is the only component where it is limited. The number of weak cores is the main thing to be see to fix the to give the values for max concurrency in batch. The only the double values of weak cores, for example, if your weak cores in your server or laptop is 10 weak cores, only the double values, that is 20 value can be given to the max concurrency in the batch process. Okay, that nothing but twice the number of available weak cores in the CPU. Okay, the next big things we have to read is patterns. Patterns is nothing but a predefined solutions for things. For example, there are many design patterns in applications in Java, Python, everything. MuleSoft itself had design patterns using enterprise integration patterns. Inside the components always use data integration patterns. Enterprise integration pattern is nothing but a predefined solutions in the MuleSoft. For example, integration styles, messaging systems, messaging channels, message constructions, message routings. Message routings includes choice router, scatter gather, for each, aggregator. These are using message routing pattern. Message transformation pattern includes target variables. We most of the components we set target variables where to save that payload or variable. Okay. Next thing, the design data integration patterns. The main important things because the transformations where to where these kind of solutions are building using data integration patterns. Data integration patterns includes migration, broadcast, aggregation, bidirectional, correlational, filtering, proxy, transformation, routing, normalization. These are the main data integrations in MuleSoft applications. Even though the 5 we can see that migration pattern. Migration, we all know that migration is nothing but one area to migrating to some area. So MuleSoft is same thing, right? Retrieving the data from Salesforce and putting the data to the SQL, SAP, Oracle, anything. So this migrating uses migration pattern. Okay, broadcast is nothing but retrieving data from one system and inserting to the multiple system. For example, taking the data from the Salesforce and putting the data, inserting the data to SAP, Oracle, IBM, Google, BigQuery, Azure to the multiple systems is called a it uses broadcast system. Aggregation pattern is just opposite to the broadcast. Retrieving the multiple data from one system and inserting to the single system. Okay, bidirectional is nothing but here we are retrieving and inserting, but bidirectional uses two types: retrieving and inserting between two applications. For examples, the connections between Salesforce and SAP, the data can be retrieved from the Salesforce and insert to the SAP, and bidirectionally it retrieves the data from the SAP and puts the data to the Salesforce. Okay, uh, these are the main areas to be covered for the MuleSoft developer and in interview purpose. Okay, and guys, thanks for attending this meetup. And Vandana, you can go.
Yeah. Thank you, Cibi. Thank you so much for all this insight. Attendance, you have any questions or any doubts, please let us know. Please put it in a chat box. So I guess no. Pranjal is asking if one of my recent interview I was asked the difference between until successful and reconnection attempt strategy. So you should have to by default in the connector. Like yeah, this is one of the important questions. The difference between until successful and reconnection strategy.
Vandana, I will note these questions and I will reply to you personally. Okay, you can say share to these guys.
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
Okay.
I guess no one have questions. Okay. Thank you so much for all your like attended toward the session and all. Thank you so much, Cibi, for your insight. Thank you. So we can wrap up this session, right?
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, guys.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Thank you all.